After nearly 3 decades covering the Buffalo Bills, this guy knows what he's talking about. Welcome to Sal Speak, the place to be for hard-hitting analysis from Sal Majorana of the Democrat and Chronicle.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sal Speak on Facebook Live, DemocratandChronicle.com. I am Sal Majorana, joined as always by our columnist Leo Roth. And Bills in Cincinnati this weekend for a Week 5 game against the 1-3 Bengals. I kind of promoted this, Leo, as role reversal. We kind of figured the Bengals would be 3-1 coming into this, and the Bills would be 1-3, and it's the exact opposite. Really kind of a surprising season for both teams. Real quick, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the Bengals they've had great success. I mean, the last decade where the Bills are struggling, they've been a perennial playoff team. Not last year, but always the big story with the Bengals is they get to the playoffs and can't win a game, and Marvin Lewis is always under the heat. The
Bills would take getting the playoffs.
Absolutely. And not winning. The Bills fans would trade places with Bengals fans in a heartbeat, the way things have been going here. So I still think the Bengals are I still think Marvin Lewis is a really good coach. I've always liked Andy Dalton. I know people in Cincinnati might roll their eyes when they hear some of these things, but the Bills better be on their toes. It's a road game.
They better.
Always a tough place to play. Great fans down there. So, yeah, and I'm sure the Bills are preaching that.
All right, so with that being said, we're going to try something new this week. We're going to bring in Jim Ozarski, who works for the Cincinnati Enquirer, Cincinnati.com, a fellow Gannett property. We haven't tried this before. We're going to do it, and we're going to get some insight from Jim on the Bengals, who he's covered for 3 years. Jim, welcome to Sal Speak.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, so Leo kind of referenced it. Marvin Lewis in his 15th year, I believe. He's been a survivor, that's for sure.
Right.
Outside of Belichick, I think he's the longest tenured head coach in the NFL. Has there been, maybe the last couple of years, particularly last season when they missed the playoffs, some heat on Marvin to get this thing straightened out?
Well, it depends what you call heat. If it's from the fan base or national media who still don't understand Mike Brown, then yes, there's heat. But in terms of like actual real job issues, no, not at all. I mean, he was never going to be fired, in season last year or after some of those playoff failures that you guys talked about. Now, there's a little difference this year. Marvin Lewis did not get his sort of annual one-year contract extension. He is a quote-unquote lame duck, if you will, this year. First time since 2010. So, yes, there's a little heat in that regard, but not in the sense of he would be fired in season. That's just not going to happen here.
All right, tell us about what's gone wrong with a 1-3 start. Again, I thought this was a team, after missing the playoffs last year, would probably bounce back. It wasn't a real brutal start to your schedule. You lost the first two, and you bounced back with, actually the first three, bounced back with the Cleveland win. What, in your opinion, has kind of gone wrong so far?
Yeah, you're right. I think the reason the offensive coordinator was fired after week 2 was because of what you just said, too much talent to be 1-3. Now, there was quite a bit of a roster turnover. This is Marvin Lewis's youngest team, believe it or not. So for all of the names Bills fans know from the last 2 years they've met, the back end of the roster, very young. So there's a little bit of that, some learning curves there, but Ken Zampese was fired after the week 2 sort of offensive debacle against Houston where they scored 9 points. They were shut out in week 1. That's what was wrong. The offense and Andy Dalton were broken. That's Marvin Lewis's word. And they had to make a change. Actually, Bills fans, I know you've had a lot of turnover. Ken Zampese is the first coordinator in the history of this franchise to be fired in season.
Wow.
I mean, that's how
that's surprising.
Bad, this got. So we'll put it there first on the offense. The defense had some issues, gave up big plays. Essentially, through the first 3 weeks, guys, 200 yards of passing offense were given up on just 4 plays. So they were prone to kind of that big mistake down the field. Obviously, that was all corrected against Cleveland, which solves all woes.
Does it even count against Cleveland, Jim?
Yeah. So
hey, the Browns came along at the right time.
Guys, I think the thought is this, how good is this offense now against a real defense? Because they really haven't seen that since week 2.
Well, I'm just thinking, when you talk about changing offensive coordinators, Jim, Bills fans, the Bills did this last year, getting rid of Greg Roman and going to Anthony Lynn after 2 games as well, and and it proved to be a good move in the long run. Not that Greg Roman was a horrible coordinator, but it was more of a I think at the time Rex Ryan needed to do something, and he picked the sacrificial lamb. Was this the same case, or was he really was he doing that horrible job? But I have seen some reports where there's a belief there that the talent wasn't living up to its potential. So far so good, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. There definitely was a disconnect, and it began a year ago in Zampese's first year. Now, if Buffalo fans remember, it was a close game here at Paul Brown Stadium a year ago. A.J. Green got hurt, Giovanni Bernard got hurt, and at the time, those guys accounted for 50% of the offense. So I think there was a thought internally that, okay, whatever the offensive struggles were a year ago, we were missing Bernard Green and Tyler Eifert, and we lost Marvin Jones-Mostanu. So there was a thought, okay, draft some guys, John Ross, Joe Mixon, will be better. Well, then 2 weeks in, all those guys are healthy, and they score no points. So I think it was a combination of Marvin needed to do something clearly wasn't right. And then Bill Lazor has established an identity, former Dolphins OC, quick passing game. Short passes, get the ball out of Andy Dalton's hand, because honestly, guys, the offensive line here is bad. So that has worked. That change has worked, as you said, like it did in Buffalo.
Now, defensively, I looked at the stats, and of course, you never know what the stats are going to show, but they do say the Bengals have looked pretty good. Buffalo's offense, not all that great. So this game to me, Jim, I don't know what you picked in your show, but I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Could go either way. But give us a sense of how good the defense is, because Buffalo really has one weapon, LaShawn McCoy. You shut him down, you have a good chance of winning. Give us a sense of the defense.
Yeah, the rankings, I think, despite for as bad as the offenses they've played have looked, and this even includes Aaron Rodgers. I mean, they made Aaron Rodgers look shaky for the better part of 3 quarters. And actually, guys, Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy came out and said Paul Gunther's defense confused them to a point where they had to change what they were doing. Carl Lawson, a rookie edge rusher, get familiar with him, one of the best in the league in terms of QB pressures, so much so that left tackle Joe Thomas last week had to get help to block Carl
Thomas
Lawson.
is pretty good.
Some of those numbers aren't really, are legit. Vontaze Burfict is back, second-year linebacker Nick Vigil. Not a factor last year in this Bills game. They're the guys who are going to kind of try to close down on Charles Clay and LaShawn McCoy, keep Tyrod Taylor from making plays with his legs. It is a good defense, guys. They're all healthy. And Geno Atkins and the addition of Lawson and Carlos Dunlap really getting that front forward pressure. And, a secondary that has about 40% of their defensive cap spending back there. So, I mean, they pay for those corners. So it is a really good group. And you're right, actually, this Bills offense plays into their hands. They want to keep everything in front of them, rally to the ball with fast linebackers. So you're right. I think I agree with you. This might be a low-scoring effort.
What are they saying in Cincinnati about the Bills' defense?
A lot of respect. I mean, I was talking to a couple of linemen. I said, hey, I kind of flippantly was like, hey, it should be fun this week. And he's like, you call that fun? Like, is that what you want to call that? I mean, in terms of Kyle Williams and Marcel Darius, obviously Cincinnati, we know Adolphus Washington real well, Preston Brown as a linebacker. A ton of respect for them, especially up front, that front seven. Andy Dalton played with Jerry Hughes, I think, at TCU.
Yeah.
So he was all about him. And then, Micah Hyde, in that background, the back end, some playmakers there, right? So I think definitely a lot of respect.
Jim, in general, I mean, this is obviously when a team is 1-3,
yeah,
they certainly are feeling more of the pressure, and you know how it can go quickly on a team if you don't get that win. So, is the sense in the room there that, okay, yeah, we know this opponent pretty well, Buffalo coming in here, very familiar. You rattled off a lot of the reasons why. What's the sense of the room? Are they really a pretty focused group that this is a game the Bengals have to have?
Yeah, I think so, especially because they always tell you the 1 week at a time thing. But when you're 1-3, they do look ahead in this sense. It's a bye week next week, and then they go to Pittsburgh. So for this team, I think they kind of know, you're already 0-1 in the division. You're already 0-2 in the AFC. To make the playoffs, your best bet now is to win the North right? And maybe win AFC games if you're going to get to some tiebreaker type situations. So they know no one's in there is going to tell you it's a must win, but it kind of is because there's a huge difference between 2-3 going into a bye, 2 wins in a row, a game that got away in Green Bay, as opposed to 1-4, 0-3 in conference. Now you're going to division-leading Pittsburgh, who could have an inverse record at that point. So, they're dialed in. They know that this is an important one because, look, everyone respects Cleveland, right? But look, everybody beats Cleveland. Yeah. So this is the game where they feel it's a true marker. Okay, how much have we improved since that Thursday night game?
All right. Hey, Jim, thanks for spending time with us. Really appreciate it. I will see you at the stadium on Sunday afternoon, and I think we're going to watch probably a pretty ugly, low-scoring game.
I agree with you. Look forward to it. See you then.
All right, Jim, take care.
Jim, thank you.
All right, that was great. That worked out pretty cool, Leo.
Wow.
It's good to get the other perspective on a team, especially a team that
I hope listeners here, viewers, whatever, what are they out there?
I don't know what they are.
Are they readers, viewers, or listeners?
They're digital.
I guess they're all everything,
people.
right?
Yes.
Digital consumers, consumers of digital content out there.
I think it works.
I hope they appreciate the other side because it is. We do spend a lot of time on the Bills, obviously, but
so let's talk about.
It'd be nice to tap into the other side. So that's great.
Let's talk about the Bills now. So last week, I think you and I were both pretty surprised by what happened. I mean, I didn't think they were going to go down there. I thought they could hang with the Falcons. I didn't think they could go in there and beat them. And that being said, Leo, they did get, for once in Bills land, they got every break possible. I thought both of the calls that were replay, I thought they both could have gone the other way, which would have been a huge impact on the game. And then not having to face Julio Jones for the last 2 quarters, I'll tell you what, that last drive of the game looks a whole lot different if Julio Jones is in the game. So the Bills got a lot of nice breaks. They deserve it because they don't get them too often. And I thought they were, by the way, the better team in the game. They deserved to win, but they did have some help.
Well, you hit on all the points there, Sal. To me, it was the perfect storm. How do you those 2 calls? I mean, 99.9%. Those are in the NFL, which is you can't figure anything out anymore. Yeah, I don't know what a penalty is anymore.
Well, what's going to happen this week now. Those exact calls will get called the other way.
Absolutely,
it's the NFL.
And it was funny though. Last week, that same motion thing, I saw it in an X game. I think it might have been the Oakland game I was watching. Similar. A lot of these, it was always forward arm. But again, now they ruled it a fumble. Unreal. Yeah. And the other one off the ground. I don't know what they were watching, but all the replays I saw, that ball hit the ground.
Somebody said that the interpretation on the interception was that he did have control of the ball. He caught the ball. So even though I didn't even realize this. Apparently, the point can touch the ground. If you're bobbling it, it's going to be incomplete.
I thought it had to be there. I thought your hand had to be underneath.
That's what I thought. When I saw the replay, I'm like, oh, that's going to go back. There's no way.
But anyway, but again, 2 great calls, and then, of course, losing Julio Jones to the Falcons.
He played 15
So everything
snaps.
happened right for Buffalo. But you know what? Good for them because for 17 years, those scenarios always go against Buffalo.
Exactly.
They're the ones that don't get the calls. They're the ones that are losing their best players, and they end up not closing the deals. Go back these 17 years, Sal. So many games the Bills could have won. So many in the 4th quarter. Hey, and they closed that thing out, and to stop them on that 4th and 1 and do it with only 10 men on the field, you know it's your day.
Oh man,
it's your day, and good for Buffalo. I was gonna I would say this: if the Bills were 1-3, we'd be going ho hum. Here we go again. If they were 2-2, it's like, hey, I'm interested, but they've been 2-2 like 8 times over the last 10 years. 3-1.
That changes the conversation.
Now you're picking your head up and going.
Can you imagine the headlines and the work we would have had to do this week if they had lost with 10 men on the field, and then all the Rex Ryan comparisons and everything else? So I'm glad that they survived that because that would have been a really, really.
You're right. If that was a Rex Ryan team and that happened and they lost that game, oh my Lord! But now that it's Sean McDermott, the Sean McDermott that right now can do no wrong.
Yeah.
He's on a great honeymoon.
I'll tell you what, too. We're going backwards a little bit. We should probably spin it forward. But that game was fascinating on many levels. I really thought, Leo, Atlanta blew it. They got down at the 10-yard line. They had 4 cracks at it. And as a matter of fact, they started off with a 1st and 5 because the Bills were offside. Why
would you have thrown on 4th and 1?
No, I was just going to say. Why, even on 3rd down, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, there was a minute to go in the game. You had no timeouts. Why did they not run the ball twice?
Why can't you run on them?
I didn't get it.
Yes.
They put themselves in a bad spot on the 4th down play.
Absolutely, especially as well as the Bills secondary was playing. And And what a story
It's
they
good to
they
know
are
some other teams
week
can
to
screw
week.
up these
And what
calls.
about it? They could have run. They had to be really kicking themselves because Buffalo had 10 men on the field.
I know.
You couldn't run on that.
I know.
You didn't recognize it. Or
I'm not sure if they recognized it
probably
right away. But
maybe not, but maybe that's something that that Matt Ryan could have seen. But I'm gonna tell you too. That's too. We've seen it so much before. So you always go into these games. Like I always remember the Aaron Rodgers game in Buffalo of a few years ago, and the Bills just intercepted him 3-4 times. And now again, Ryan, one of the best in the league, the league MVP. And he doesn't have the big game anymore because he's missing some of his big weapon in Jones. It just break right. You know what? It is bound to break right.
Well,
for the
you know
Bills.
what? I was just going to say, you made a good point. This is the kind of stuff that has to happen.
It has to happen.
This is how teams make the playoffs. You get a game like this. You get some breaks, a game that you weren't expected to win, and you pull it out. Like we always talk about, what are those 1 or 2 games that's going to flip it from 7-9 to 9-7, and maybe you're a wild card team? Well, this was exactly one of those games. This is the kind of game that the Bills never used to win. Maybe it's a new era here in Buffalo. We'll find out. Look, now going forward, Leo, we said all these glorious things about the Bills. This game worries me. And Jim made some good points.
He does.
They're the desperate team now. They're the 1-3 team that really can't afford to lose.
And they're home. This is big for them.
A home game for them. So I'm a little bit leery about this. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, absolutely. That's why I did ask Jim about it. I said, you got to put yourself in the Bengals' shoes here. It's a home game. They've been despite their record, they've been playing better the last 2 weeks. They're coming. One was the Browns, of course, but they could have easily beat Green Bay. And they're coming on here, and they got, like he just went over, that defense. That defense was good.
Yeah.
The Bills' offense, we know, is very pedestrians. Got to do a lot of things right. It's got to run well. It's got to get the tight ends got to get involved a lot more than in the past. And now and then you lost Jordan Matthews. We haven't brought up the injuries yet. The loss of Jordan Matthews is significant. He was their leading wide receiver amongst wide receivers. He was the leading wide receiver. Great run after the catch guy, a big target. Him and Tyrod were getting some chemistry together finally, and now he's out for a good month. This is an offense they couldn't afford to lose a receiver. And I like your stuff today when you were talking about Sean McDermott talking about how Philly Brown is going to be fine. Now, when you cut a guy,
how fine can he be?
How fine can he be? Now, I do like Sean in that the fact that he is Mr. Optimism and putting the positive spin on everything. I give him credit for that. That's his job. I think everybody knows the real story, but good for Sean to always be Mr. Positive.
This is what I know about Philly Brown, and it's not much. He was with the Panthers the previous 3 years.
Right.
So McDermott got plenty of looks at this guy, and he still decided to cut him at the end of training camp. So that kind of gives you an idea of how good this guy might be. I don't think he's going to be a big factor in the game. I'll tell you what, Leo, I'm going to run this past you. Tell me what you think. For me this week, I think it might make some sense for the Bills to just move Charles Clay out to be a receiver. Just play him on the outside. O'Leary can be your tight end, and then when you go 2 tight ends, then you would move Charles Clay back in and throw whoever else on the field. But I don't know. Clay right now seems to have the most chemistry with Tyrod Taylor. Why not put him on the outside? He's basically, he's sort of a wide receiver, the way he plays the game. He's not a true blocking tight end, you know?
But I wouldn't call him a Tony Gonzalez by any means, but
he's not an outside guy.
He doesn't have that kind of body, but
I'm trying to think outside the box.
But not a bad thought. I mean, it's no surprise that the Tyros are going to be looking at him. He already targets him the most of anybody. That he's just going to increase. Yeah. They didn't give Tyra any other options. So
as long as completions of the year have gone to Clay.
Absolutely, and I've always kind of had a faith in Charles Clay that he was worth the free agent signing that they gave him.
I don't know if he's worth that much.
Well, nobody is.
Yeah, but I don't think he was worth that much.
Nobody is, but
they had to overpay to get him.
But I think he's a guy that with the right coaches, the right calls, the right quarterback. Tyrod Taylor is probably the right quarterback because he can't do anything else. So he is looking for his tight end.
Sure.
This could be the Carolina game all over. I don't know. The flip side of the Bengals, I mean, Andy Dalton gets a lot of grief as he is what he is, but you know what? He's been a pretty productive quarterback in his career.
I've always said,
you might not know why or how, but he's had good receivers.
Leo,
they run a good offense. I don't know how their line's not as strong this year, but he's always had a really good offensive line and a good running back. They're starting to get it together, so this is a very, very challenging game.
From day one, I'm pretty sure he came in 2011. I'm pretty sure his first victory ever was against the Bills, it was down there. I think I'm right on that. But ever since I've seen this guy play when he's played against the Bills, and they've played them at least 3 or 4 times since he's been there, I would ask this of Bills fans: would you rather have Andy Dalton or any other guy that's been Buffalo's quarterback since he's been in the league? The answer would 100% be
absolutely.
I would take Andy Dalton over any of these guys. Yeah. Maybe even Tyrod Taylor.
And they could have had him.
Well, probably over Tyrod Taylor.
They absolutely could have had him. He was right there to be drafted, and they didn't take him.
Dalton gets a lot of heat, and I understand it.
Didn't they take Aaron Williams?
Yeah, 2011 was Aaron Williams.
Before.
But he wasn't a first-round pick. He was a second-round pick.
Yeah, but I think Dalton was third.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Andy Dalton, the biggest knock on him and Marvin Lewis is that they haven't won a playoff game.
Yes.
They've been a pretty good team. They've been to the playoffs numerous times, I think, under Marvin Lewis now. I'm not sure how many under Dalton, but it's, at least a handful. They haven't won a playoff game.
Yeah.
And they've had, I think, some home playoff games too, where they didn't win. So that's been the biggest knock on Dalton. But I think he's a pretty good player. A.J. Green, assuming he stays healthy for the whole game and doesn't pull a Julio Jones, they're going to break 2 weeks in a row. That guy's a handful. Now, like Jim said, he got hurt last year. I remember it was the first drive of the game. He went on a sideline route and he twisted a knee or something. He was out for the whole game. The Bills went on to win. So they're going to have some trouble with A.J. Green this week. Joe Mixon's a rookie running back, kind of a controversial kid in the draft. I think he's starting to come around a little bit, like running backs are going to as a rookie. So I think the Bills' defense will get a little bit of a test, and I think what's going to come down to, Leo, is can this offense, the Buffalo offense, do anything against a pretty good Bengals defense?
Right.
They couldn't do it against Carolina.
Say it is the Carolina scenario. Can they? They got to put up more than 3 points. Can they get to that 17 again? The 21? I mean, I'm going to tell you what. The Bills defense is that good. Where if the Bills can score 21 points a week, they're going to put together a very good record.
They haven't given up more than 17 yet.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just obviously the math here. So. Of course, the defense is allowed to have that bad week too. Sometimes it could happen. Trey White might not be the star that he is. Maybe sometimes he's going to be. They're going to keep testing him. So, This is a big game for the Bengals. We talked about that big game. The Bills can probably. Hey, if anyone said the Bills were going to be 3-2 at their bye, my Lord, everyone would have signed up for that. Now the chance that they could be 4-1. So they put 3 teams, to put Carolina, Denver, and Atlanta behind them. Those 3 teams are 3-1.
Yeah.
They got them out of the way. I think we all probably thought, Denver and Atlanta were losses.
It's 2 good wins.
They've got wins that they're playing with house money now.
Well, you wrote the schedule story like you do every week, and as it always happens in the NFL, you can't just go by their schedule at the start of the year. Right. Oh, this is going to be really tough. Things change.
Yeah.
Now already, I don't know what Derek Carr's status will be a month from now, but if he's not playing and E.J. Manuel is the quarterback when the Raiders come to town, that game looks totally different.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, we'll see tonight. They're playing New England. We'll see what they are, but they're a very inconsistent team. Those are your next 2 games after the bye week, after this game is over.
And then you got a
go to the Jets
that's playing better.
All of a sudden they're playing better. Maybe that's not an automatic win now. Yeah. So it really is a week-to-week league, and it's when you play teams. It really is. It's not like
when you do
looking a month down the road. No, what are these 2 teams going to look like a month down the road? Then you can make a determination. So the schedule, at least a quarter of the way through, maybe not as tough as we thought, and perhaps with 3 wins already in the bank, maybe they can find 6 more and get to the playoffs. It's very possible now.
Absolutely.
We're having the conversation, right?
We are having the conversation, and we're allowed to look ahead. The players, and believe me, the players do too.
Yeah, they do.
But, if you wanted to go through as we stand here right now, I could see the Bills being 11-5.
Well, that's a little bit generous to me. I don't know about that.
I'm just saying, as it stays, I'm not factoring in injuries because they're going to have more of those, and I'm not even thinking about other teams getting their act together. No. But as we stand here now, they could beat a lot of these teams on the schedule.
Are you drinking cherry Kool-Aid or grape Kool-Aid? What's your flavor of choice?
Anyway, I'm just analyzing. I'm the schedule analyzer, so that's what I do.
Whatever. All right. Couple quick questions, then we're going to sign off. Justin Hausner with wide receiver questions. He says, what do you think of Philly Brown and our wide receiver squad? It was a 2-part question. So we sort of talked about Philly Brown. Look, this is a guy who did nothing. He had they signed him as a free agent, so McDermott must have liked something about the kid. He spent 3 years with him in Carolina. He had some numbers. I think he played in 40-some games. I think he had 80 catches. So it wasn't like he was a total nobody. But I watched him in training camp in the preseason. I'm sure you did. He did nothing. And there was a reason why he got cut. He literally did nothing on a team that was devoid of wide receivers. So they only brought this guy back because he's familiar with the offense. That's why he's here.
Yeah.
They've got a hole to fill. This guy knows the offense. He's played in the league.
What do I think of Philly Brown? I really like Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's about it. And as far as the rest of the wide receivers, we know it's the weakest. Yeah. It's probably the weakest unit on the team. And losing Jordan Matthews again.
I mean, Zay Jones. What do you think of Zay Jones?
Well, I just wrote about him today. There's a story online.
Struggling getting out of the box. Him and Tyrod have no chemistry going.
What I wrote about Jones and what I've talked to him
he's bound to come around. But you know what? It's not unusual for rookie receivers to really struggle.
People think that wide receiver, you just run out and catch passes.
No.
In college, it's like that. In the pros, it's a totally different position. I remember Andre Reed telling me this years and years ago. People have no idea how complicated playing wide receiver is. You know, you've got to understand coverages, hot reads. You've got to get on the same page with the quarterback. Everything. The running back, he just takes the ball and runs. It's a totally different thing.
Yeah, the rookie running backs, as you see, like someone like Kareem Hunt here with the Chiefs, just
you
blowing
can
up the league.
these guys in.
Yeah, you can it's a lot more field. They got to go to where their blocks are supposed to be, but they can do so much just on their own. A receiver just can't go out and freelance.
Can't do that.
And you're right. He's got to read that defense. He's got to know when to break the hot read, to change the play. So much going through his head. And then when the quarterback throws it a mile over your head like Tyrod does, or too short. You have to like Zay Jones. I know you love Zay Jones in college, so you got to keep. But they have to keep going back to this kid. They can't give up on him.
I agree.
And they got to keep his confidence going.
I agree.
And then some week here he's going to have that little decent game where he grabs a half dozen balls for 100 yards. It's coming because I think he's got too much physical talent for that not to happen. Andre Holmes, I think they got that guy's a physical specimen to me. They got to start doing a little bit more with him, especially in the red zone.
I think the biggest problem, Leo, is that they're not really getting open, though.
Yeah.
And we know Tyrod.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You know Tyrod is not going to force it into coverage.
Yep.
He needs a guy to come open, and I think that's part of the problem. Zay Jones and Andre Holmes just aren't winning. They're not presenting themselves for Tyrod, and when they have, in the case of Zay Jones especially, they've dropped.
I'm kind of with you though. They need to use O'Leary and Clay. Use their tight ends more. If they're your better options because the receivers are weak, you have to do something with that.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll see.
All right, last question, then we're going to sign off. David Goldtree just wants to know when Cordy Glenn is healthy, is Deion Dawkins the answer at right tackle? Yeah, I actually said that somewhere or wrote it. I think what they have to do is when Glenn is back, Deion Dawkins has proved he can play. I mean, he's held down left tackle for 2 games in a row starting, and I haven't noticed him once, which is a great thing for offensive linemen. So I think what they do is you put Glenn back at left tackle, and I would move Jordan Mills right to the bench where he belongs and put Deion Dawkins. Now, I know there's this talk about, well, he did most of his work at left tackle. Well, that's baloney. You drafted this guy to be your right tackle. You've got Cordy Glenn locked up for, I think, 3 more years.
Yeah.
Deion Dawkins wasn't coming in to play left tackle. He's your right tackle of the future. I think as soon as Glenn's back, Leo, they make that move.
And he would be an upgrade over Mills right now.
Well, you would be an upgrade over Mills.
There's no question, because Mills is struggling. He's not doing great out there. He's okay. He's doing his best, doing his job. I will say that, the think about looking ahead with all the draft picks the Bills have, and everyone's saying, well, you got to make hay on them. They're 3 rookies. We just talked about Jones, and obviously not doing great, but he's not a bad pick by any means. I don't believe.
Not yet, at least.
Trey White is having a rookie of the year type play right now.
Yep.
Jones, and then you talk about Dawkins. If they hit on 3 guys there, that's pretty good work.
This is what real teams are supposed to do.
Yeah.
Is hit on your top first and second round picks.
Yeah, so
that's what you do.
Projecting forward, you got to feel good about Brandon Beane and the staff and the scouts and looking forward. Are they going to know what to do with this cache of picks? Right now, absolutely yes.
Yeah, I would believe so. All right, we're going to sign off. We hope you enjoyed this new version of Sal Speak. I want to thank Jim Marzowski.
And our big desk here, too.
And our big desk. You like this big desk, don't you?
I do.
No Tyrod behind us,
Spread out.
No Tyrod Taylor behind us.
Sorry.
So
no
that was the only big
Sal
change.
Speak behind us.
Yeah.
You'll have to work on that.
Yeah. I got to rebrand this thing. What do you want to call it? Leo Speak?
Nah.
Would Leo Speak make you happy? All right.
Gripes of Roth. I told you, the Gripes of Roth.
That is a really good. You should do more with that. That should be your brand. Gripes of Roth. That's great.
If I had my own, then you wouldn't have no guest. You wouldn't have
I could be your guest, though.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to be your guest.
I think the readers, both of us at once is enough for the general public.
All right, we're done. We're done signing off here. Hope you enjoyed the show. Again, DemocratandChronicle.com. Leo's got some stuff coming up some Amherst stuff coming up this weekend. 'Cause they
Yeah,
open their
hockey.
season.
We're into hockey right now.
We're into hockey. I've got all the Bills
For this
coverage.
week.
Yeah, I got all the Bills coverage, so pay attention and sign on and give us a look. For Leo, I am Sal. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Bills game on Sunday.